and thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. Protests were held around the world today to call for a ceasefire in Gaza, including here in Thunder Bay. Residents gathered at Hillcrest Park to show solidarity with the civilians in Gaza and to push the government to demand an end to the ongoing conflict. Jessica Clement has the details.
Residents from all walks of life came out to Hillcrest Park on Saturday to stand in solidarity with the civilians in Gaza and call on the Canadian government to demand an immediate humanitarian ceasefire.
I've been seeing my family and friends and our people suffer through this for too long. Since I was a little kid, we've been seeing this trauma, and it's been going on for 75 years. It's not something that has been going on since October 7th. It's been around for quite some time.
Organizer Ferris Ismail says the rally is part of dozens of protests across Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom fighting for human rights.
We want an end to the siege on Gaza. We want an end to the military occupation. We want the right of returns as per UN Resolution 194 of the Palestinian people to be allowed to return to their homelands, to live in peace with our Jewish brothers and sisters. Because again, this is not an issue about religion. We have Jewish allies around the world fighting for Palestine.
Hundreds came out to show their support locally, and many community members gave heartfelt speeches about wanting peace for all. Ismail says that at the end of the day, it's not really a both sides issue.
It's more of an oppressor, a colonizer, versus the oppressed, the colonized. And this has been going on, for, like I said, far before October 7th. It's been happening for 75 years. The foundation of the State of Israel itself was founded based on the forced removal and displacement of 750,000 Palestinians.
There were no anti-protesters on site. However, TBT News spoke to Daniel Hanna, president of Shirei Shamayim congregation, before the protest. He says it's important to support and cherish everyone's right to freedom of expression.
I don't have any objections to this protest as long as it remains peaceful and doesn't devolve into hate speech. I think the one thing we all hope is that we can recognize the value of human life, both Israeli and Palestinian, and that we can recognize the damage wrought by dehumanization in this conflict.
Hannah adds that members of the congregation are feeling pretty emotionally drained by the ongoing conflict.
We have many members in the community who have close ties to Israel, and so there's been a lot of high emotions, grief and anger over the last few weeks. I think members have been deeply disturbed by the brutality of the attacks by Hamas, by the ongoing hostage situation, and by the scale of the casualties in Gaza as well.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Thunder Bay OPP members are asking for assistance from the public identifying a suspect involved in a string of break-and-enters at multiple seasonal properties in the Pass Lake area within the municipality of Shunya. Between the evening of September 26th and the early morning hours of October 28th, the individual shown in this photo broke into several seasonal properties, taking numerous items. The OPP are requesting the assistance of the public to identify the suspect and provide any information they may have regarding this incident by calling the Thunder Bay OPP Detachment or Crime Stoppers. The struggles faced by paramedics in Thunder Bay were highlighted at this week's City Council meeting. Superior North EMS Chief Shane Muir provided the update, with the service facing a number of challenges. That includes calls for service skyrocketing. Between 2016 and 2022, the number of calls rose by about 30%. Finding new means of supporting paramedic mental health is another focus, with the service developing new ways to provide support and ensure people know how to access them. Chief Muir also says recruiting and retaining paramedics is a challenge, though they're hoping to attract more talent from the region to address this.
That is part of our digital media strategy, is really highlighting that and really trying to tap into all those pieces that we weren't able to tap into before. And I've really encouraged our paramedics that are out in these communities to approach people and really talk to them and reflect that they have opportunities out there. Because that's really what we need to do, is tap into some of those populations that are out in our districts, some of our First Nations communities, and say that we have opportunity for you here now. It's home in your community and we could use you. We really want your support.
During the discussion, the growing opioid epidemic was also tied to the increase in calls for Superior North EMS. This week, the Ford government voted down an NDP motion that would have recognized indigeneity and colonialism as determinants of health for First Nations people. The motion was put forward by Kiiwetinoong MPP Saul Mambakwa.
No one in this House can know the toll that these determinants of health have on your mental health, on your physical health, on your spiritual health. Generations of our people have lived under these conditions.
During the initial debate last Thursday, Mamikwa cited statistics from the Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority, which show that in 2021, First Nation members in that area visited the ER for mental health issues at 14 times the provincial rate and at 16 times the rate for self-harm and suicide. Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford, who has experience working as a nurse in remote First Nations, joined his Conservative colleagues in voting against the motion on Monday. Before the vote, he recognized the tragic impact of suicide but criticized Mamikwa on procedure.
There's a good way of working through the legislature with respect to those private members' bills, and when you want to put a report on the table for us to consider and debate, maybe put it out a little bit sooner than one day before the motion is tabled.
According to the NDP, their report was available 4 days prior to the vote, although the legislature was not sitting on 3 of those days. A deaf woman overcame childhood adversity to unexpectedly find a way to learn to dive and discover her happy place under the sea. After being bullied as a child for being deaf, she's found a place where how you hear is inconsequential, and a group of friends recently surprised her with an underwater birthday cake. Adam Sawanski has more.
Ever since she was a little girl, Kristen Piche dreamed of diving underwater and becoming a marine biologist.
Just obsessed with the ocean.
Kristen also grew up with increasingly severe hearing loss.
By the time I was 3, I had the strongest hearing aids that were available, and they weren't really working.
So when Kristen was 3.5, she endured surgery for a cochlear implant.
The only thing I remember is getting an orange popsicle at the hospital. The only thing.
But she'll never forget how, although the implant transformed the way she could communicate, the cumbersome contraption connected to it made her a target for bullies.
Kids can be cruel.
But Kristen could always find comfort in dreaming of connecting with sea creatures, until that was dashed as a teenager, when she learned that potential underwater pressure on the implant would make scuba diving impossible.
It was very, very sad.
It was so devastating, Kristen says, she gave up on pursuing marine biology and took a few years after school to surf and travel instead. Until one day, she heard the news that implants had been approved for diving.
It was like, got certified the same year.
And you can see from the photo on her diving certificate what having a once-dashed dream realized feels like.
My grin is just massive.
An enduring smile that Kristen now regularly covers with a diving mask. Not to work as a marine biologist, but to spend countless hours photographing the locals.
It is bliss, yeah.
It's where a girl who was once bullied has grown up to find the sorts of friends who celebrate your birthday with a surprise cake crafted from a kid's arm floaty and topped with glow stick candles.
So I was just so emotional. I was like, I can't believe they did all this.
In this, her happy place, where how you hear is inconsequential, and how being empowered by your surroundings and being emboldened by your accomplishments is everything.
It's something that's always going to bring me joy.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
An annual holiday campaign was launched this week to ensure no one goes hungry during the holidays. The Regional Food Distribution Association kicked off its holiday hamper campaign with the support needed more than ever. The hampers are offered to single people, couples, and seniors in need as the holiday season brings added financial pressures. This year, the RFDA is expecting to hand out 1,500 hampers, a significant jump from last year. Local students are pitching in to the campaign as well, baking cookies and writing messages of support that'll be put in the hampers. Chair June Gaw says, with the struggles many are facing today, every bit of support helps.
In the past, Thunder Bay has always come through for us. We have had successful campaigns prior, and I know that even though everyone seems to be struggling a bit this year, that, you know, one can or whatever, $1 makes a big difference in our campaign and can definitely help somebody in need.
The RFDA is accepting food donations at their location on Syndicate Avenue and financial support on their website. The The campaign runs until December 13th, with the hamper being distributed in Thunder Bay the 14th and 15th. With temperatures growing colder in the city, a group of teachers continue to work at ensuring everyone stays warm this season. The 17th annual Coats for Kids campaign kicked off today at Victoriaville Mall, providing community members the opportunity to find proper winter clothing. The project is a collaboration between the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association, the Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board, and the Catholic Principals Council of Thunder Bay. The group collected a number of coats, hats, mitts, and winter boots to give away this year. And while many items are for children, they also offer clothing in adult sizes. The donated clothing is available at Victoriaville Mall from this Monday to Friday from 11 to 1 p.m. and on Saturday from 11 to 12 p.m., with leftover items being donated to the underground gym and precious bundles. OECTA Chair Sarah Pulowski says having programs like Coats for Kids is vital to a community.
I think programs like this and initiatives like this really show community spirit. I think it shows that we're all connected. I personally believe, connection is the most important thing. It's what drives me and fuels me, and I know, the members of our Human Rights Committee team are really excited to help as well.
Well, this year's donation drive is over. People can still drop off cleaned winter coats throughout this week or hold on to them until the next donation drive in autumn of 2024. We're now joined by sports anchor Joe Sadowski, and like we were saying, coats are coming out, but that doesn't mean football's over.
Oh, no, it doesn't. And you're going to need the coats if you watched today's games because it was cold out there. But it's playoff time for high school football. We'll have those highlights from the senior and junior games and more coming up after the break.